Begin in Nashville right now. Investigators are still trying to figure out a potential motive behind that shooting at a private Christian school.
Investigators say the attacker legally stockpiled 7 weapons and was under a doctor's care for something that we still don't know exactly what. The shooter was shot and killed at the scene, but not before 6 people, including 3 children, were killed. I spoke, as you know, Errol, with so many people there paying their respects at the school, some who were former students and are mourning victims that they knew, including the head of school, and others who didn't know any of the people killed in the event personally, but as parents still felt the emotion of it in a personal way.
I know it could happen anywhere. No school is safe, which is very unfortunate. It's just I didn't expect it to happen at a school that I was connected to, you know? You never think that that's going to happen to someone.
We have tomorrow. We have tomorrow, and these parents don't have tomorrow with their kids.
The victims in Monday's mass shooting were 9-year-olds Evelyn Dickhouse, Haley Scruggs, and William Kinney. The shooter also killed Covenant School head Catherine Kuntz, custodian Mike Hill, and teacher Cynthia Peak.
For more on all of this, let's bring in CBS News correspondent Janet Shamlian. She is there in Nashville, just outside of the school. Janet, what more are we learning about the victims? Lana kind of described who they were, everyone from teachers to custodians and students. Tell us more.
Errol and Lana, hello from Nashville, which is a heartbroken city now. A little more than 48 hours after this tragedy. Behind me, you can see the memorial that is growing, people who didn't know any of the victims stopping here to pay tribute and respects. And as you mentioned, we are learning more about these people. The 3 adults, people who gave their life to education, including Mike Hill. He was a custodian at the Covenant School. He'd been there for 14 years, 7 children, 14 grandchildren. Cynthia Peak, a teacher who worked there. She was supposed to have dinner with the governor's wife the night of the shooting. And Catherine Kuntz, headmaster, who gave her life to education. People who died doing their jobs. And the 3 children we know less about, except for Haley Scruggs. She is the daughter of the lead pastor of Covenant Presbyterian Church. They're all being remembered here in a city that just still can't comprehend what happened.
Yeah. Janet, we're parents. We have been feeling the emotion of these stories in personal ways, and we've seen that that repeated in so many of the people I know that you and I have been speaking with. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about somebody who knew the shooter and tried to contact police to warn them. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, she is sort of an influencer here in Nashville. She went to middle school with the shooter. They played on the basketball team together, and she said on Monday, just before 10 a.m., she received a direct message on Instagram from the shooter saying that she was saying her final goodbye, that she was about to do something bad. This young woman receiving this message was terrified. She called her own father, took a screenshot, asked her father, what should I do? He said, you should call authorities, you should call a suicide prevention hotline, which she then did. However, it was too late. That message came to her just about 15 minutes before the massacre here at the school.
All right, Janet, you've done such a wonderful job out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet.
Now, right now in the Senate, the gloves are off.
You've made more misstatements in a shorter period of time than I have ever heard.
Please correct
Well,
me,
if I'm
because
worth
it's
$8
all
million,
public.
excuse me.
It's all public.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right? Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
If I'm worth $8 million, that's good news to me. I'm not aware of it. That's a lie. All right? Number 2.
Part of public records.
You're probably looking at some phony right-wing internet stuff. It ain't true.
No.
All right? You should read beyond that.
Now, that exchange very heated between Senator Bernie Sanders and Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. That came during a hearing on Starbucks' alleged union-busting tactics. Howard Schultz is the star witness today, just days after he stepped down from his 3rd stint as the CEO of Starbucks. He is there under the threat of subpoena from Bernie Sanders. CNN's Matt Egan has been following all this. Matt, that exchange, that wasn't even the main event. It was, you know, that was for Schultz to testify. So what did we hear on the Starbucks front?
Yeah, Alex, the main event really was Bernie Sanders confronting Starbucks founder Howard Schultz about his company's alleged union busting. Sanders didn't mince any words. He accused Starbucks of waging, quote, the most aggressive and illegal union busting campaign in modern history, and he noted that Schultz, the company's founder, only agreed to testify after being threatened with a subpoena. Listen to this exchange between Bernie Sanders and the Starbucks founder.
Let me remind you that federal law at 18 U.S. Code Section 1001 prohibits knowingly and willfully making any fraudulent statement.
I understand that.
Were you ever informed of or involved in a decision to fire a worker who was part of a union organizing drive?
I was not.
Were you ever informed of or involved in a decision to discipline a worker in any way who is part of a union organizing drive?
I was not.
Have you ever threatened, coerced, or intimidated a worker for supporting a union?
I've had conversations that could have been interpreted in a different way than I intended.
Now, to make his point, Sanders pointed to a ruling from just a few weeks ago by a judge at the National Labor Relations Board who found that Starbucks displayed, quote, egregious and widespread misconduct in its dealings with employees trying to unionize in Buffalo, New York. Now, for his part, Schultz, he repeatedly stressed that Starbucks has not broken the law. He also referred to these allegations from the NLRB as just mere allegations, ones that he thinks will be disproven over time. Now, here's why all of this matters. I mean, Starbucks, of course, is a brand that a lot of Americans care about, they love. It's also a major employer. Look at that. Almost 500,000 people around the world work for Starbucks, more than 250,000 in the U.S. alone. Starbucks raised its minimum wage to $15 an hour recently, and Howard Schultz says the average store wage is $17.50 nationally. But clearly, Starbucks has become sort of the latest flashpoint in this growing effort around the country by workers who are trying to fight for better wages, better benefits, and stronger working conditions. And Alex, you know, this fight clearly is not going away.
Well, Russia says it has begun military exercises with an intercontinental ballistic missile system capable of launching nuclear weapons.
Now, it's interesting because this comes as the Secretary of Russia's Security Council says Moscow is committed to preventing a nuclear war, especially between nuclear-armed nations. Meanwhile, Ukraine's president told the Associated Press he still wants to meet with China's president.
Of course, I gave all the diplomatic and public and not public to President of China, to leader of China, and I want to speak with him because I had contact with him before full-scale war, but during all this year, more than 1 year, I didn't have, and I really wait when our teams will find the solution.
But no plans
yes.
at the moment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you invite him here to Ukraine?
Oh yes, we are ready. We are ready to see him here.
The principal years of your life, because this is a moment.
President Zelenskyy also expressed concerns that shifting political forces in Washington could impact the war in Ukraine.
Hugo Bachera from our partners at the BBC joins us now from Kyiv, Ukraine. Hugo, good to have you with us. So to that point, how realistic is it that she would want to meet with Zelenskyy?
Yeah, I don't think anyone is expecting President Xi to be coming to Kyiv anytime soon. Remember, this is a leader who was just days ago shaking hands with the Russian president in Russia, and China remains the most important Russian ally internationally. And I think differences remain. I mean, China has put forward a peace proposal calling for a ceasefire that has been dismissed by the Ukrainians, by Western leaders, has been seen as a proposal that favors Russia. So I think differences remain. And in this interview, President Zelenskyy also said that there has been no contact between him and President Xi in this war. So I think it shows that, you know, differences remain. So I don't think it's nobody's expecting President Xi to be coming to this country anytime soon.
Yeah, no contact at all. That certainly jumped out at me. Hugo, we want to ask you about what's happening at the Zaporizhia nuclear plant. Of course, it's seen recent or increased military activity nearby. Moscow now says it's ready to discuss safety concerns at the plant. I remember they had taken the employees hostages months ago. What does it say about Russia's plans, and what is the status of the plant and its staff today?
Yeah, it's hard to believe that the Russians are serious about negotiating any kind of plan to reduce tensions around this facility. Remember, this is Europe's largest nuclear power plant. The Russians invaded and took control of this facility in the early days of the war. And the Ukrainians say that the Russians have been using this facility for nuclear blackmail, for playing with fears of a possible accident in that part of the country because of the fighting that's been happening there. And for a very long time, Rafael Grossi, who is here in the country, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, has been trying to reach a deal to create a demilitarized zone or safety zone around this facility to reduce tensions. He says he's going to try to have talks with the Russians, but so far he has failed to reach this deal, in part because the Russians have refused to agree with the points that have been presented. So it's difficult to see how the Russians are going to engage with any kind of meaningful solutions to reach a deal over what is happening there at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant.
All right, Hugo Bachega joining us from Kyiv in Ukraine. Thank you.
No one in the world holds a grudge like me. And no one in the world cares less about being petty than me. I don't care.
Fighting words from Nebraska State Senator Megan Hunt before a vote on a bill last week that would ban medical care for trans kids. Kids like Senator Hunt's own son. Democrats in Nebraska in the legislature are waging a remarkable fight against this bill. It started with Senator Michaela Cavanaugh vowing to bring Nebraska's legislative session to a standstill. She and Democratic allies are now filibustering every single bill this session unless the Republican-led body decides to drop this anti-trans bill. Last week, the Democrats agreed to one single vote to give Republicans a chance to take a stand against the anti-trans bill, but they voted to advance it instead. So Nebraska Democrats vowed to take up their filibuster again today, and Republicans tried to get around them by changing the rules to make it harder to filibuster, but the Democrats were undeterred.
We are blowing up this session. The session's over. The session's over, and it's on your terms because the terms were made clear to you for the last 4 to 6 weeks. And you ignored that. You didn't care. Hating trans kids in Nebraska is more important to you than the rest of this entire session. And that message is received loud and clear.
Now, this anti-trans bill would have to pass 2 more times before it could move to the desk of Nebraska's Republican governor. But with only 39 days left in the session, the Speaker of the Nebraska legislature has conceded that time is running out for bills that don't involve taxes, education funding, or the state budget. And Democrats are saying no votes on anything. So that anti-trans bill is likely out of play for now.